In an era marked by stark political polarization, a recent BuzzFeed article has shed light on the sentiments of Democratic voters who wish to bridge the growing divide with their Republican counterparts. As America grapples with the aftermath of a contentious election cycle, the voices of those on the left reveal a deep yearning for understanding and dialogue across party lines. The article, penned by BuzzFeed staff writer Dannica Ramirez, highlights the thoughts of Democratic voters on what they wish Republicans understood about their perspectives and the current political landscape. Many responses reflect a frustration with perceived ignorance and a desire for Republicans to engage more thoughtfully with complex issues. For example, one voter lamented, "I wish Republicans would acknowledge that there are experts in various fields whose studied opinions are more valid than someone who just has a feeling or thinks a certain way about a subject." This call for a return to facts over feelings underscores a fundamental challenge in contemporary political discourse. The theme of education and understanding resonates throughout the responses, with several voters expressing a wish for greater civic knowledge among Republicans. One voter articulated a desire for Republicans to grasp the true meaning of the Constitution and the historical context surrounding it, emphasizing that a better understanding of civics could lead to more informed political decisions. This sentiment reflects a broader concern that many citizens feel increasingly disconnected from the foundational principles of the government. As the article progresses, it becomes clear that the wish list extends beyond mere acknowledgement of facts. Many Democratic voters wish for Republicans to recognize the broader societal implications of their policies. Concerns about the dismantling of the Department of Education and the withdrawal from international organizations like the World Health Organization are voiced with urgency, particularly in states that already struggle with educational and healthcare challenges. One voter poignantly noted many red-leaning states are already ranked pretty low in education and healthcare. "You're just setting up the kids in these areas for failure." The discourse also touches on the emotional aspects of political identity. A comment from a Georgia voter highlights the personal impact of policies championed by Trump, stating, "I wish the Republicans in my life knew what a slap in the face it is that they voted for someone who was working to ban a surgery that saved my life." This personal narrative emphasizes the human cost of political decisions and the need for empathy in political conversations. Moreover, the article encapsulates a growing frustration among some voters regarding party loyalty and the evolution of the Republican Party. A voter expressed a belief that the Republican Party as it once existed no longer aligns with the values it once championed, stating, "The Republican Party your parents grew up with no longer exists." This sentiment of disillusionment reflects a broader crisis of identity within the party, as many feel it has strayed from its foundational tenets. As the political landscape continues to evolve, the insights shared by Democratic voters illuminate a path forward, one that emphasizes dialogue, understanding, and a recognition of shared humanity. While the road to reconciliation seems daunting amidst entrenched positions, these voices serve as a reminder that beneath the layers of political affiliation lies a common desire for a better, more inclusive future. Looking ahead, the challenge remains for both parties to engage in meaningful conversations and seek common ground. The hope is that by fostering an environment where diverse opinions are heard and respected, America can move toward a political landscape that prioritizes collaboration over conflict. As the nation continues to navigate its complex political terrain, the willingness to listen and learn from one another may prove to be the most crucial factor in shaping a more united society. In a recent interview, President Donald Trump made headlines by refraining from endorsing his Vice President JD Vance as a successor for the Republican Party's presidential nomination in 2028. This decision has sparked conversations within political circles about the future of Trump's political legacy and the potential candidates vying for the GOP nomination. In a candid exchange with Fox News reporter Brett Baer, Trump acknowledged Vance's capabilities but asserted that it was too early to designate him as the next leader of the MAGA movement. "Nobody's very capable," Trump stated, a remark that emphasizes Vance's potential while simultaneously leaving the door open for other contenders. JD Vance, who at 40 is the first millennial to hold the vice presidency, has emerged as a front-runner for the Republican nomination. A recent survey indicated that if the primary were held today, Vance would garner 27% of the vote among GOP supporters, suggesting a strong base of support. Vance himself has been non-committal about his 2028 aspirations, stating, "We'll see what happens come 2028," reflecting the uncertainty that often accompanies early political speculation. In the same poll, Trump's eldest son Donald Trump Jr. was also listed as a potential candidate, receiving 21% of support from respondents. His lighthearted response to being included in the discussion, "Don't get me into trouble," highlights the playful yet serious nature of succession politics within the Trump family. Other notable figures mentioned in the poll include Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, and current Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Trump himself noted, "I think you have a lot of capable people," alluding to the deep bench of potential candidates eager to advance the Republican agenda. As the political landscape shifts, Trump also reflected on the upcoming 2026 midterms, emphasizing the work his administration is currently undertaking. He suggested that his administration's achievements may be overshadowed by the rapid approach of election season. Trump's remarks echoed sentiments from his first term, when he quickly pivoted to re-election plans shortly after taking office, showcasing a familiar pattern of prioritizing electoral strategy over immediate policy discussions. Interestingly, while Trump has not ruled out the notion of a third run for the presidency, such discussions remain largely theoretical. The 22nd Amendment restricts any individual from being elected president more than twice, but Trump has hinted at a possible reconsideration of this limitation. "They say I can't run again, that's the expression," he remarked during a recent national prayer breakfast, leaving observers to speculate about his intentions. Despite these musings, constitutional experts deem any attempt to amend the 22nd Amendment unlikely, particularly given the current political climate and the necessity for significant legislative support. The dialogue surrounding Trump's potential successors and their respective chances in upcoming elections is indicative of a broader trend within the Republican Party, which continues to grapple with its identity post-Trump. As candidates prepare for a competitive nomination process, it remains to be seen how the party will navigate its future, particularly as it approaches critical midterm elections and the 2028 presidential race. The impact of Trump's decisions, along with the responses from emerging leaders like Vance and others, will undoubtedly shape the GOP's trajectory and its appeal to the electorate. Looking ahead, the political ramifications of Trump's administration and the dynamics of succession within the Republican Party will be crucial not only for party unity but also for the broader political landscape in the United States. Senate Budget Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham announced plans to push forward a budget resolution that could allow Republicans to bypass a potential filibuster in passing Trump's key priorities. It would be enough money for 4 years to implement President Trump's border agenda, Graham stated, emphasizing the need for a substantial $175 billion allocation to bolster security along the U.S. southern border and an additional $150 billion for military spending. This move is part of a broader strategy to leverage the reconciliation process, which allows legislation to pass with a simple majority, thus circumventing the traditional 60-vote threshold necessary to overcome a filibuster. The Senate's approach contrasts sharply with that of House Republicans, who are advocating for a single comprehensive bill that encompasses a range of issues including immigration, energy, and tax cuts. "To my friends in the House, we're moving because we have to," Graham remarked, indicating frustration with the slow pace of negotiations and the necessity of acting quickly to support Trump's immigration initiatives. House Speaker Mike Johnson, however, has expressed reservations about this strategy, labeling the Senate's proposal a non-starter and emphasizing the challenges of aligning the various factions within the House Republican Conference. This internal discord highlights the complexities of Republican unity in the current political climate, particularly as the party seeks to rally around Trump's priorities amidst competing interests. The ongoing debate over which legislative path to pursue, one comprehensive bill or multiple smaller ones, reflects deeper ideological divides and strategic calculations within the GOP. Some Republicans fear that splitting initiatives into separate bills could jeopardize critical components of the agenda, especially given the narrow majority in the House. Adding to the urgency of these discussions are key votes scheduled for the confirmation of high-profile cabinet nominees, including Tulsi Gabbard. As Senate leaders prepare to take significant votes, the outcome of these deliberations could shape the trajectory of Trump's second term and influence the party's overall legislative agenda. As Republicans navigate these contentious waters, the reconciliation process emerges as a vital tool for achieving their policy goals. Historically, reconciliation has been used by both parties to advance major initiatives with minimal bipartisan support, and its potential application in the current Congress underscores the stakes involved in the ongoing negotiations. Looking ahead, the implications of these developments will extend beyond immediate legislative outcomes. The ability of Republicans to present a united front and effectively implement their agenda will be critical in shaping the party's future and its relationship with the electorate. As divisions persist, the coming weeks will likely reveal whether GOP leaders can reconcile their differences and deliver on the promises made to their constituents. The effectiveness of this strategy will not only impact legislative success but also inform the broader political narrative as the 2024 elections approach, leaving many to wonder how the party will navigate the challenges that lie ahead. Amidst a backdrop of significant political shifts, the U.S. House Foreign Affairs Committee convened a pivotal hearing on February 13, 2025, titled "The USAID Betrayal." This session set to feature prominent witnesses including former U.S. Representative Ted Yoho and Andrew Natsios, a former administrator of the U.S. Agency for International Development. USAID is expected to address concerns regarding aid practices and accountability within the agency. The hearing comes at a time when the political landscape has dramatically changed following the 2024 elections, which saw former President Donald Trump reclaim the presidency against Vice President Kamala Harris. With Republicans also gaining control of the Senate, the House has become a critical battleground for shaping future policy directions, especially regarding international aid and development strategies. Witnesses lined up for the hearing have raised alarms about the implications of what they describe as regulation by enforcement in the context of digital assets and their governance. This term, frequently echoed during recent congressional discussions, refers to reactive regulatory measures that arise after violations occur, often stifling innovation rather than fostering a proactive environment for growth. Jose Fernandez de Ponte, a senior vice president at PayPal, emphasized the necessity for regulatory clarity and a stable framework for digital currencies, indicating that without it the U.S. risks falling behind other nations like China and those in Europe. At the same time, the legal access granted to Musk's Department of Government Efficiency DOGE within the Treasury has stirred controversy. Reports of a DOGE staffer mistakenly receiving editing permissions on sensitive payment databases highlight significant lapses in oversight. The swift revocation of this access illustrates the ongoing tensions surrounding governmental transparency and the safeguarding of sensitive information amid calls for efficiency and reform. As the hearing on USAID unfolds, it is anticipated to address not just the operational failures cited by witnesses but also the broader implications of U.S. foreign aid policies under the current administration. Former Administrator Natsios is expected to articulate a vision for a more accountable and effective aid strategy, emphasizing the need to restore trust among stakeholders at home and abroad. Polls indicate that public sentiment is increasingly supportive of measures like term limits for Congress, which could further shift the dynamics within the legislative body. A recent survey in South Carolina found that approximately 79% of likely voters are in favor of such limits, reflecting a growing desire for renewed accountability among elected officials. Ultimately, as the U.S. navigates these complex issues, the outcomes of the House hearings and the broader legislative agenda will likely shape the future of both domestic governance and international relations. With key elections on the horizon and the stakes higher than ever, the deliberations in Congress will set the stage for the next chapter in American policymaking, particularly in the realms of foreign aid and digital asset regulation. The decisions made in the coming months could redefine the framework of U.S. governance and its role on the global stage. In a critical juncture for American democracy, tensions are escalating between the Trump administration and the judicial system, raising questions about the boundaries of executive power and the rule of law. As President Donald Trump embarks on a second term, he is pushing the limits of presidential authority through a series of controversial executive orders that have sparked significant legal challenges. Critics, including legal scholars and lawmakers, express concerns that the administration's increasingly aggressive stance toward court rulings may lead to a constitutional crisis. Since taking office in January 2025, Trump has enacted sweeping measures that include suspending asylum claims, freezing government hiring, and attempting to dismantle agencies established by Congress, notably the U.S. Agency for International Development (USAID). These actions have prompted numerous lawsuits from various stakeholders, including Democrats and labor unions, who argue that such unilateral moves violate the checks and balances designed to prevent any one branch of government from overriding the authority of another. A federal judge in Rhode Island recently ruled that the Trump administration was openly defying his order to unfreeze billions in federal funds. The White House responded, defiantly asserting that all presidential actions were lawful. This incident highlights a growing trend among Trump and his allies to challenge judicial authority. Vice President JD Vance's comments on social media asserting that judges cannot control the executive branch's legitimate power underscore this troubling sentiment. Historically, there have been few instances of outright presidential defiance of court orders, with scholars pointing to past presidents showing disrespect or reluctance to comply rather than direct refusal. However, the current circumstances are unique. Trump's administration has frequently criticized unfavorable rulings, with the president himself labeling a recent federal judge's decision a disgrace. Such rhetoric raises alarms among legal experts who warn that defiance of court orders could fundamentally destabilize the constitutional framework that underpins American governance. Legal scholars like Cristina Rodriguez from Yale University have pointed out that while courts can threaten contempt charges against officials who ignore their orders, they often lack the power to enforce compliance effectively, especially against high-ranking officials. The reality is that if a president chooses to disregard court rulings, the judiciary's ability to impose repercussions is severely limited. This potential for non-compliance poses a grave threat to the principle that no one is above the law. As the situation unfolds, many observers are concerned about the implications of Trump's actions for the future of governance in the United States. If the administration continues to flout judicial authority, it could set a precedent that undermines the very foundation of American democracy, leading to an environment where laws are selectively enforced based on the whims of the executive. The stakes of this conflict extend beyond immediate legal battles. They touch on the broader issue of congressional power and the separation of powers. Trump's attempts to assert dominance over the legislative branch, particularly in matters of federal spending and appropriations, could effectively reduce Congress to a mere advisory body. This shift not only threatens the balance of power but also raises questions about the long-term health of democratic institutions in the United States. As the legal challenges to Trump's actions progress, all eyes will be on the judiciary, which may soon face an even more significant test of its authority. Should the Supreme Court become involved, the outcomes could reshape the landscape of executive power for years to come. However, the possibility of the administration refusing to comply with court rulings looms large, and the implications of such a scenario could have lasting consequences for the rule of law in America. In conclusion, the unfolding confrontation between the Trump administration and the judiciary serves as a crucial reminder of the delicate balance that sustains democratic governance. As we witness these historic developments, the future of American democracy hangs in the balance, compelling all branches of government to assert their roles in upholding the Constitution and ensuring that the rule of law prevails. The coming weeks and months will be pivotal in determining whether the courts can rein in an increasingly assertive executive or if the foundations of American democracy will be fundamentally altered.